So I think we've got all of our panelists and contributors here. So thank you guys. Thank you for your patience as we get started. So I'm gonna, hello Amanda, and we've got people trying to call Fatty, who's our women's coordinator, so hopefully she'll be joining us as well. But we'll get started. We've got lots of people on the line now listening in, which is very exciting. So let's, I wanted to start by introducing everybody just very, very quickly so that we can put a face and a name to everybody. So I'm Sam, I'm Partnership Development Manager for Refugee Resource. And we've got Louisa, who is busily in the background there. You can't really see her, but she's one of our trustees. So she's going to be manning the controls and helping us with sharing screens and any kind of technical hitches, hopefully, that we might encounter, because this is all quite new for all of us. We've got Sushila, if you could just give us a wave. So Sushila's one of our long-term counsellors here, and she also leads on our capacity building work and training. So she's going to be sharing a little bit in a moment. We've got Stephanie, who's a volunteer. We can't see Stephanie, so she might not be able to give us a wave. Oh, hello. Hello. Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Stephanie's a volunteer with us. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got Mariam. You could give us a wave. There's Mariam. She's one of the members of our women's group. We've got Dilba. Hello, Dilba. So she's another member of our women's group. And we've got Lubna. Hi, Lubna. Nice to see you. And then we've got Rod, who's our mentoring and volunteering coordinator. Hi, Rod. And we should also have Basma joining us. So Basma has been very busy this week, I know, as a lot of people have. She's been running lots of online events for Refugee Week, so hopefully she will be joining us very shortly. In fact, I think I've just seen her come in and wave. So hopefully Louisa can upgrade her so that we can see her on video and hear her in a moment. But just before we kick things off, I wanted to start by sort of setting the tone for the event, because we've talked a lot about, if you've signed up via the Eventbrite, you'll have seen that we've talked about Imagine. So that's the theme of Refugee Week this year, is Imagine. And I wanted to share a piece by that's been written about the kind of the pandemic, the situation, by Arundhati Roy, who's an Indian author. So I'm just going to share a quote that she has shared. So hopefully you'll be able to see my screen. I'm going to read it out. But she wrote this, and I thought it really resonated and kind of helped to set the tone for the event today. So historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and hatred, our avarice and data banks and dead ideas, our dead rivers and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through lightly, with little luggage, ready to imagine another world and ready to fight for it. So I thought that was just a nice piece to share that just kind of brings out that Imagine theme and kind of helps us to, whoops, I'm just trying to bring this off of, stop sharing my screen now, getting used to the controls. But that helps to kind of just set the tone for Imagine, and the fact that, you know, I think there's a lot of grief and a lot of challenge, but we wanted to try and kind of hold on to that feeling of lightness and not kind of make things too heavy today. You know, we wanted to kind of imagine together and be creative and try and share some of the sort of positive and celebratory things that we can. I'm just going to check my notes here and make sure that I cover everything. So we want this to be very much a safe space, you know, a place where everyone feels very comfortable. So if at any point you feel, you know, upset or triggered by something that we share, please feel free to step away from the screen. We're really conscious of how heavy the screen use is on our eyes. So please make sure that you don't kind of keep too focused on the screen, and rest your eyes and move away if you need to. As we said before, attendees, you don't have video and you don't have audio, but you can type comments in the chat. You can ask questions if you need to, but we will have times where we pause and we take some time to kind of answer questions and things as they come up. We might run out of time, so if that happens, we will be doing some follow-up afterwards. So we will try and answer questions that come in that maybe we don't have time to answer today. So please, if you're typing messages, keep them sensitive, keep them, positive. We want to make sure that everyone's very respectful. So if you could bear that in mind when you are leaving comments. And I also wanted to say a huge thank you to all of our contributors, everybody who's on the call. Thank you for giving up your evenings tonight. Thank you to our trustees, many of whom are on the call as well. I also wanted to say a special thank you to Onform, which is a sculpture exhibition happening locally, and we were meant to be doing Refugee Week activities with them all of this week. And of course, they've had to be postponed and cancelled. But Onform have been amazing. They've been really supportive. They've made a very kind donation to Refugee Resource, which we're really appreciative of. And they've been sharing, as many organisations and individuals have, sharing our stuff on social media and being really supportive. So thank you to them. And thank you very much to our donors and partners who were on the call as well. It's really great to have you here. So thank you very much for your support. We look forward to the time when we can host something in person. We were kind of talking just before the call kind of properly started. We were saying, can't wait to get back into the office and be able to share some food and some good times with everybody. So we're looking forward to that, but we're really grateful that we can be together tonight. So thank you very much again for being here. So I think that wraps everything up that I hoped to cover in my intro, but if I forgot anything, someone can poke me. Feel free to poke me if I forget anything. And obviously we might have people joining, so we might need to just do reminders about the fact that, some people have video, our contributors have video, but a lot of people will obviously just be listening in. It's a webinar, so you'll be able to chat and you'll be able to chat on and ask questions on, by typing. We won't be able to necessarily hear everybody, but please do feel free to send comments and feedback. So first on our agenda is we're going to hear from Sushila, who is one of our long-term counsellors here at Refugee Resource. So she leads up she's got tons of experience, so she'll be able to talk a little bit more about that later. But we'd really love to hear from her. She's going to share a journey of a refugee, and we wanted to make sure that we've got new attendees on the phone. Hi Kate, hi, nice to see you. So as we said before, if any of this part of the webinar is triggering or upsetting in any way, please feel free to step away from the screen. Please feel free to go and make a cup of tea. You can come back to us, treat it a little bit like a radio show, but you have the benefit of seeing our faces as well. But Sushila's going to be sharing some topics that might be a little bit more sensitive. So if you want to step away, you can come back. We'll be moving on to some creative things and the Imagine Oxfordshire kind of sharing at about 7:10. So if you did want to step away, you can do that and come back at about 7:10, 10 past. But I will pass on to Sushila now, who's going to share the journey of a refugee. If you don't mind, Louise is going to make you full screen, hopefully, Sushila, so that you can take the stage.
Okay. Well, thanks, Sam. I think it's wonderful that you're doing this, and I'm glad we can do it, even though everything is closed and we can't meet in person. It's definitely better than nothing. And I want to say I don't feel I have given up my evening. It's an absolute pleasure to do this, so it's a positive thing. I want to echo what Sam said and explain that what I'm going to describe in the way of journeys or journeys that refugees take is something that many of you will already know, and you will know it more closely and sensitively than I do. I have borne witness to this through listening to lots of people over many years. And the reason Sam said what she said was that sometimes even people who haven't been on these journeys have got distressed when hearing some of the things that I'm going to say. So I've started with a warning, just to say that if this reminds you of anything, or if it's uncomfortable to listen to, I won't mind if people go, and I'm happy to be there for people if I've said something which is upsetting and they want to talk about it. And I'm sure I speak for all of Refugee Resource team when I say that. So what I'm going to talk about is the journey of people who are forced to flee. So that is totally different from getting ready to go on holiday. When you plan it, you know where you're going, you know you'll be coming back. For a start, when people set out on the journey which they haven't chosen to take, they have to leave knowing that it's likely they will never be going back, and that if they go back, it's going to be a place which is different from the place that they've left. So that is a very, very difficult way to leave a place. And the reason I'm stressing that is because I want everyone who isn't a refugee to really get this, because if we all got this in this country, we wouldn't have issues that we have. So it's not just about leaving home, it's also about leaving one's whole life, community, language, culture, safe places, friends, qualifications, family, and everything that is familiar, everything that reminds a person who they are and how they know themselves to be, and setting off for an unknown future, not necessarily knowing where safety is going to be found. That is a very difficult way to start off, and so people start off these journeys with grief and sorrow and terror in their hearts, and that is also a very difficult way to start a journey. So, and people don't necessarily leave having money, having luggage. Sometimes decisions have to be made very quickly about what to take, and sometimes people can't take anything with them, and sometimes people can't take any person with them. So this is not setting out with your passport and your money and your change of clothes. It's a completely different thing. And on these journeys, there are a lot of things that we take for granted that we don't even think of, that people don't necessarily have access to. So for example, drinking water, bread, decent footwear or sandals or something that protects your feet, warm enough or cool enough clothing, and identification. So setting out on a journey without any of these things is like setting out on a journey into the world naked, not knowing where safety is going to be found. Some people set out on foot and take long journeys across mountain ranges and deserts, sometimes only moving at night, sometimes in the boiling sun, but never being in a place that feels familiar or like home. There always comes a point where people come to a border which they have to cross, and this can mean immediately losing language and citizenship. So there's a sense of, for people on journeys, of not existing in any official capacity. So if you need medical help, you don't exist as a person, you have to find some way to pay for it. If you don't have money, you can't have the medical help. So poverty and sickness and injury, exploitation and fear are people's everyday companions on these journeys. And in such times, acts of kindness and goodness shine out. And I've heard of a lot of things which have happened on these journeys which are terrible, which nobody should have to go through. But I've also heard of acts of kindness. And the whole experience for me of listening to people at Refugee Resource, I would say, has been learning about what it is to be human, what is good in the human spirit, and the depths of cruelty to which we can descend. People talk about sea crossings, and I know that on the TV, people have seen some of those sea crossings. But what I've learned is that many people who go crammed into those little boats, and it costs a lot of money to get a place in one of those little boats, which sometimes means having to be exploited on the shore where you set out from in order to get that place in the boat. The boats are quite light. I've heard about how you can try to set out at night and the waves keep throwing you back, and you have to get beyond the waves to get onto the sea. And then the fear when you're out with nothing but water around you and people in charge who don't know you and don't care about you. And it's those sea journeys which people have talked about so much, because that is an experience of feeling absolutely alone with nothing around people but the big, vast black sea and the sky. And that is when people can feel really, really small and have a sense that they could just disappear and nobody would ever know. So those journeys are absolutely terrifying, and they are the kind of thing which come back in nightmares again and again. when people arrive at a border, you would think it would be a relief to arrive at a border, but borders often have border guards at them, and they often have unwelcoming people at them. So I've heard about people being battered the minute they hit the shore, or not allowed to land, or taken and put into camps where nobody explains what happens, nobody explains how you get out, nobody tells you what's going on, and you don't understand anyone. And again, in those situations, if somebody is kind and good, it shines out and it is never forgotten. And so in some ways, one of the things I've learned is that it's often, I think, we feel we can't do enough. We can only do a little bit. We can just give people like £1 on the street if they're homeless and begging, or we can offer people what we offer at Refugee Resource and it doesn't feel enough. But what I've learned is that sometimes when people are hungry, if you give them a piece of bread and a drink of clean water, that act of kindness keeps the hope alive in them and helps them to keep going, and it is never forgotten. And it is especially not forgotten because people can feel so lost out in the big world, away from everything familiar and looking for safety. People often get stuck or lose other people on journeys. So people can get stuck in camps for a long time, or they can get stuck on borders, and they can get separated. So sometimes if a person has managed to escape with others and then someone gets lost, that's just too much. You can hold together so much and then something can happen that makes you not able to hold together anymore. So sometimes on these journeys, people actually break, but they carry on, because that's what human beings do. Carry on in search of safety, but with a broken heart. When people arrive in the UK, the journey isn't really over, although many people think it is, because the UK has an undeserved, and I don't say this lightly, the UK has an undeserved good reputation abroad, because once we were a country that gave free healthcare to everyone without a grudge and without trouble, and we had an education system which wasn't overburdened, and we had public services which were well paid and cohesive and held together. And so in those days, there was racism and there was poverty, but the structures were there that made the country a good place to arrive in. And people across the world thought of the UK as a place of justice, even though I have to say the UK hasn't always behaved in a just way. But within the borders, there was a sense that people would get their needs met. That is no longer necessarily the case, but the reputation endures. And so there are people who will not stop their journey until they arrive here where it is going to be safe. So when people first arrive in the UK, there's a sense of relief and a relaxation. And then there's the first interview in the Home Office. And suddenly people realise that this might not be what they thought it was going to be, because the person in the Home Office doesn't necessarily believe people, even telling the absolute truth about everything that happened. There's a culture of disbelief, and people are kept in poverty, and they have no choice about where they live or who they live with. Then there is the issue of, for many people, having to learn the language from the beginning, being sent letters and given forms that they may not be able to read, a sense of alienation, a sense of the grief catching up. And we talk about trauma, which is where things have been too much and people cannot process or carry them. So carrying all that, people come to this country, find their qualifications and their experience isn't recognised, and they have to start again at the bottom with fewer qualifications than a child who has sat GCSEs. So that is completely demoralising and dehumanising. What I hope is that people also find some kindness and some welcome and some hope in this country, because I have to say sometimes in Refugee Resource I have felt really ashamed of the UK, but I've also noticed during these days of coronavirus that ordinary people look after each other. So I think maybe our systems can be cruel, but ordinary people can behave better than that. So within this country, there is then a journey. There is the need to settle, to find a place to feel safe, to start to make friends, to find a way to live, to have friendships, to heal, to maybe find people who have got lost, or try to at least find people whole and alive in one's heart. And this is more than survival. This is learning to live again fully. When I give this talk, I do it as a tribute to all those people whose stories I've heard and whose stories I haven't heard, and in fact to all people who are forced to leave home and have to rebuild themselves. When I say that I've learned a lot at Refugee Resource, I would say Refugee Resource has made me who I am, because what I've learned about is the extraordinary resilience and adaptability of human beings. So I want to end by saying I pay tribute to all of you, and I'm glad we have a thing called Refugee Week. Every day should really be Refugee Day, because this country is built on people who have travelled here. And if people didn't travel here, someone in their history travelled here, because the UK was not a country originally that had human beings. So all of us are based on someone who travelled here. And so I want to pay tribute this Refugee Week to everyone, whoever has to leave home and travel somewhere and rebuild a life. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Sushila. That was really, I'm really glad that we sort of started, because I think for people who, you know, have just never had the opportunity to learn or understand, or even try to begin to understand what people have been through. You can see several people saying thank you on the chat as well for the, you know, the emotion and passion that you know you share when you speak. It's really good to be able to hear your years of experience and awareness kind of come through. And I think it really hopefully touches me that, you know, thinking about those acts of hope, you know, those small acts of kindness, because I can feel, you know, myself how it can feel very overwhelming, you know, with all of the things that are wrong with the world. You know, how can you make a difference? But just kind of trying to remember that we can all do more to, you know, keep being kind and keep doing what, you know, small acts. That's another thing that that Refugee Week is focused on, is talking about these small acts. So, you know, no matter how small an act might seem, we can all do more to be kind, to, you know, to donate to charities, to, you know, sign petitions, and, you know, build our awareness of things that are going on. Because yeah, we're all in this together. There's lots of people saying thank you so much for your very moving words. So thank you very, very much. There's a lot of people sharing their feedback on the chat, so please do keep that going, because it's really nice to hear from you, and it'd be really nice to have the feedback from the event. So Sheila, we were going to do a quick just Q&A to kind of talk a little bit more about Refugee Resource, and I realised actually that I didn't do a proper introduction to Refugee Resource. So for people who maybe are new, it would be quite handy for me to just give a little bit of an intro. And it is Refugee Week. It's actually Small Charities Week this week as well. So I feel like this is perfect timing really for us to do something, to do our first webinar to highlight us as a small charity as well, as an organisation that supports refugees. So to give a bit of background to Refugee Resource, we are a very small local charity based in Oxford. 20 years, we celebrated our 20-year anniversary just last year, and I'm very new to Refugee Resource, so I'm still learning a lot from everybody that's been here for many years. Sheila's been here for 14 years, is that right? 15 years.
16.
16 years, oh my gosh, okay. 16 years. So Sheila's in that time obviously a counsellor, but she's also doing a lot of work now to build the capacity and training of other organisations who are working with refugees and asylum seekers, because And so Sheila, you can talk a little bit more about this in a moment, but thinking about that kind of very complex trauma and how, you know, how difficult it is when you're working with other agencies if you kind of have some work to work through those really traumatic experiences, and then, you know, other people who just cannot understand where people are coming from, and that can be really traumatic for people who are engaging with other services, engaging with the legal system. And I think as a charity, Refugee Resource is very, one of the core things that we kind of keep at the heart of what the team does is responding to, you know, being on the ground, being able to, you know, work with people where they are, and being able to be adaptable and bring, you know, we have a refugee advisory group that's just been relaunched where, you know, we want to kind of make sure voices are heard and there's representation throughout the organisation, from refugees and asylum seekers, and, you know, we're a small team, but there's a lot of volunteers that kind of go, but, you know, we have a mentoring program where there's lots of volunteer mentors who support the organisation. There's the counselling service. We've got the women's group who we're going to hear from a little bit more later. But we'll talk a little bit more about the counselling service first before we move on. I think that's what makes Refugee Resource very unique, is the fact that we're the only refugee therapy service really in Oxfordshire. It's that real focus on mental health and therapeutic support that sets us apart. We work with lots of partner organisations, obviously, who work with refugees and asylum seekers, but that therapy, that therapeutic side is what is really, really important in all of the services that are delivered. So Sheila, I was going to ask you just if you could tell us a little bit more about the counselling service, just in terms of, I mean, it's as your, you know, piece that you just shared, it's hard to kind of sum it up in a nutshell, but just to kind of, for people who are new to Refugee Resource, just to kind of share a little bit about the counselling service and the work you do.
Yeah, well, what do we do? I guess we listen to people, and I'm sorry, I wasn't at all prepared to be asked that, so I just have to think for a minute. I mean, what we do is we receive referrals from, and we try to be flexible about where we receive referrals from. So we receive them from people themselves, or people's friends, or other services in Refugee Resource, so social inclusion, the women's group, the mentoring service. Sometimes people just come in the door and refer themselves, and they haven't heard about us before, but someone has sent them. And we get referrals from GPs, from elsewhere in the NHS, from Talking Space, from solicitors, from the Citizens Advice Bureau. So we work in partnership with a lot of different agencies, and our work is, first of all, people who are referred are offered an assessment, which means that we can talk to them, not going into any depth about anything, but about which service at Refugee Resource, or which services would be best right now for a person, because they can have more than one service, or they can have one and then another and then another. So if someone is lonely, for example, then we might think about what would help that person be less lonely. It wouldn't necessarily be counselling. The people who come into the actual counselling service are the ones often who feel something is burdening them so much that they can't go on, and it's really difficult to pick up a life or learn English because of the things which are in their heads. And people often describe how physically it feels as though there are things pressing down and filling up their heads and making their neck ache. So I mean, I think if you asked any of us 9 counsellors how we work, probably everyone would answer a bit differently. But the overall way we work is, we will first of all try to make people feel as welcome and as safe as possible, because often what gets lost on those journeys that I've talked about is a sense that anywhere can be safe and anyone can be trusted. So the first thing is to help a person feel safe in Refugee Resource and in the counselling room. And we do that just in an ordinary way, welcoming people, making a cup of tea, sitting down and chatting about life in the present. How is it? What do you do every day? We don't talk about the past, because that would be too much to start with. So and then we just kind of, the way I work, I just kind of get to know the person and try and make it safe for people to talk about things which are really difficult, but not too much and not all at once, because the brain has to process things little by little. We can't process huge things all at once, which is why people end up carrying them. So and what usually happens is that people, after, and it varies, you know, weeks, months, years, it really depends what a person is carrying and how they are and what their experiences have been. So we adapt it to each person. But what often happens is that people leave before they are really ready to, because as soon as people start to feel better, then they want to get out and get a job, sometimes 2 jobs, sometimes studying at night as well. So people get really busy. So what I end up doing is I often keep in touch with people for years, and they just come back for like 1 session or send an email or whatever, and we might just continue working in an episodic way for quite a long time. So, and I want to mention the interpreters, because we could not do our work without the interpreters, who become part of the therapeutic relationship, and they probably learn from working with all of us all the different types of therapy. So I hope that's helpful. But
that's really helpful. Thank you. Yeah, no, and it's really good if you think of, because it is true, you know, there's so many people, there's so many connections, and just, you know, if we forget things, do nudge us and tell us, you know, that we should be, you know, remembering just the different people that make Refugee Resource what it is. So that's really, really good. I'm glad that you mentioned them as well. If it's okay with you, I will invite people, if there are questions, people are welcome to put those in the chat or raise them as questions, and we might not have time necessarily to answer them right now, but just to give people the opportunity, if they've been moved or have got something that they're curious about, that they'd like to know more about the counselling service, we'll give people the opportunity now just to kind of ask those questions. And then in the meantime, just because obviously the situation that we find ourselves in now, obviously we're not in the office, we're not running our services as normal. You know, when we're normally in the office, there's lots of hugging and people are, you know, it's kind of vibrant, it's busy. So things have changed quite a bit, as I'm sure they have for many people in this situation. So how would you kind of sum up the counselling service in particular has adapted during the pandemic? How do you feel that it's, because I know for some people, you know, I think it's, some people have adapted to it. I think you've been pleasantly surprised in some situations about how people have adapted to it. But could you speak just a little bit about how you've had to change the way that you do things in light of what's going on in the lockdown?
Well, I mean, we've had to do counselling like this via Zoom or on the phone, or I think some young people have used WhatsApp. So, I mean, we've kind of tried to adapt it to what people need. Some people haven't engaged. I mean, that's the thing that really worries me, is some people only feel safe coming in face to face. And I do understand that, actually. I might be the same myself. So, yeah, we have adapted. We've worked really hard at it. We've, some people, we're always adaptable, actually. So say if somebody comes and then doesn't want to come for a few weeks and then comes back, especially young people can be like that, we will try to offer a service that meets people's needs. And so we've basically just done the same, but remotely. So I've adapted so that some people will get a phone call, some people will get a Zoom invite, some people will get a phone call from time to time, some people I keep in touch with by text. And I think that's what we've all done. But I really look forward to coming back into the office.
I think we all do. I think we were all saying that just before we kicked off. We were saying how much we're looking forward to kind of coming back together, whenever that may be. Obviously, we are talking about it and doing what we can to sort of, as guidelines change and things open up, kind of making sure that it's safe to do that. But no, we are all very much looking forward to getting back to that point.
In the counselling sessions, you know, if someone's really upset or shaking, you can at least give them a drink of water, and you know, you can make sure they're okay before they go. I think that can be it's different. You know, you don't know what a person's situation is when they're talking to you and they're not in the office. So yeah, I mean, we've had to try and be really sensitive.
Well, yeah, and it is, you know, it's just so different, isn't it? It's so different to being in person with someone and being able to sit with someone and actually be with someone. Kind of having people on a screen, it just feels so strange. And so just, you know, adapting to that, you know, if for everybody has been really strange. But if you're, you know, if you're in a situation where, you know, it's really frightening and you don't have family and friends, you don't have kind of the support around you that many of us are fortunate to have, it just adds so many layers of, you know,
or you don't have privacy as well. I mean, that could be another thing. But I do want to say that actually, you know, once people, if somebody is a refugee or an asylum seeker, the things they have been through are much bigger and more life-threatening. So I would say people have been really open and adaptable to this. And that's been amazing.
Yeah, and I know you talked. Yeah, and you talked before about the fact that, you know, we're kind of getting this, you know, it's not comparable in any way, but the lockdown for people who are you reading the comments? I think
I am. Yeah.
Coming up in the chat, which is really nice. People are really kind of, no, it's good to read them. But we were sort of saying how the, you know, the coronavirus, the pandemic has kind of forced us into this situation where, you know, it feels unsafe and kind of given people that sort of sense of, you know, things being, you know, unsettled and thrown out of, you know, normality. I mean, it's completely incomparable, but I think it's just, you know, it has kind of highlighted just, you know, hopefully kind of brought it home to people just how unsettling and unstable things can be and how we're all in it together. I mean, our experiences are all completely different, but, you know, we all share kind of humanity. But thank you very much. Is there anything you wanted to add, Sushila, before we move on?
Yeah, just one thing, you know, the Arundhati Roy quote that you had at the beginning about, I mean, I think what we all share, and I don't think, you know, there is a common humanity, but nobody can 100% know what it's like to be another person. So at the same time as we all share a common humanity, we all have absolutely unique and different experiences. I wanted to say that what we all share right now, and I think this is true across the world, is not knowing what the future is going to look like, and trying and holding on to what's good. That's what, and so I guess that's what I wanted to say, is that the future is clearly things are happening that we need to think about how we live, you know, and do we need to change how we live, how we think? That's, so we all face that.
Yeah, and it's totally out of our control.
Yeah, well, yeah. So for once, humanity can't feel in control, and maybe there's something in that will turn out to be good. Maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, I think we can all share in hoping, and again, making those small acts and taking the action that we can. So I'm going to move on. So the next thing that we were going to move on to doing is sharing. Many people will know about our Imagine Oxfordshire task that we kind of set people the activity to kind of imagine creative kind of responses to for Refugee Week. So we're going to be doing some more screen sharing. So if your eyes can withstand looking in more detail at some more beautiful things. We're going to be sharing some artwork from our women's group, and I'm very excited that they're here with us on the call. Thank you guys very much for being here. So bear with me while I share my PowerPoint with you, and we are going to go on to. We're going to go on to, hopefully everybody can see the screen. So we're going to be sharing some art pieces that have come from our wonderful women's group at Refugee Resource. So Modern Art Oxford have been busily sharing various pieces of artwork on social media this week, which is fantastic to celebrate Refugee Week. Local artist Mary Chamberlain has been working with the women's group via Zoom. Many of their activities have gone virtual throughout this period. So all of our services have pretty much gone online or on the phone, as Sheila said. And Mary's been working with the women's group via Zoom, and we wanted to share some of the beautiful art pieces that they've been creating, along with some quotes. So we'll be sharing quotes with you that have come in with these pieces. So I'm gonna move the slides along, hopefully slowly, so that you can take in the artwork, and we're going to hopefully have some different voices kind of sharing some of the quotes that go with these. This one is by Zainab. She says, "I imagine Oxford as a beautiful, colourful botanical garden surrounding the historical building. A piece of wonderful land." Sorry, I've got people's faces covering up part of my screen, so I've looked at these previously, but I'm trying to read off my screen whilst I share it with you. But yeah, these pieces are really beautiful, so do take a moment to enjoy them. Imagine Oxford is the city with beautiful sea views and farms around the city centre. There is no traffic, no pollution, just nature. Oh, and I should say that one is, oh, I'm not sure, who knows who this one is by?
Tuhida.
Did it say Tahida? Okay, it's because it's slightly concealed on my screen. Thank you, Sushila. And these ones are by Mariam, who's on the call with us. So imagine Oxford full of flowers. And Lubna, who also joins us on the call, imagine Oxford, lots of sun. And by Hiba, imagine Oxford with lots of beautiful churches. And by Suad, who I believe is on the call with us as well. So there's a lovely themes of nature and architecture kind of coming through on these. And the women were asked to take photographs as well of their art pieces and put them up in their windows. So they were actually drawn on kind of clear pieces of material so that the light can shine through. So you can see them all with the light kind of coming through. They look really beautiful in their natural environments. So we're going to go on to, I'll probably stop screen sharing now so that we can rejoin people and hear from you directly. Dilbert, Lubna and Mariam are here from Refugee Resources Women's Group. So waving there, hello. So we'll bring you guys back up on screen, and we're going to have you hopefully sharing some poetry that you've written as part of the Refugee Week activities. So thank you for sharing those with us. I think I'm going to hand over to, probably need to do some microphone unmuting, but we'll hand over to Lubna first. Hi, Lubna.
Hello everybody. Assalamu alaikum. Hello.
Hello.
How are you? My name is Lubna. I'm from Iraq. I've been with Refugee nearly 8 years. This is like my second home. I can't imagine my life with no refugee in this country. You know, it's really hard for me when I came in the morning until from the reception, I face beautiful, lovely people, smile, and everybody, they share with me the kind, everything. It is really, really beautiful. I wish everywhere in this country they open like refugee resource to help people. And today I'm going to share with you a poem. This poem is by women's group. We wrote it in our poverty workshop on Zoom. You will hear that we wrote a line for the letters in women's group. Women's group, wonderful women's group for women of the world. Once all are beautiful, most important to us. Equality, women from everywhere. Never forget each other. Sister, super, strong woman. Generosity and sharing. Respect for each other. Open doors for all women. Understanding, united, unique. Powerful and precious and beautiful. And thank you very much to everybody to invite me today to share this poem, beautiful poem made from everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Lubna. That was
Thanks.
beautifully read.
Oh,
You have a
thank
beautiful reading voice. It's so
Thank
calming.
you. Thank you. This is from Refugee to keep push me, especially my English, the second language.
The people are coming in on the comments to say hello to you and say how
Oh,
beautiful
hello.
it was.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
that poem. So that was women's group, and yeah, it was an acrostic poem. So when it's written down, you can see each line spells out as you read down that it spells out women's group. It was beautiful, beautifully done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Lubna. So we're going to move on to Mariam's also going to share a poem, a couple of poems. So I'm going to hand over to Mariam.
Hello everyone, my name is Mariam Latifi. I live in Oxford since 2002. So, and I'm a member of women's group since 2004. So here are some poems that we just wrote it in workshop. First of all, we thank Nikki, and she helped us a lot. First poem is which I wrote it. If I was green, I would be green like a tree in front of Oxford Museum. Green like grass in Florence Park. Green like field in the countryside. Because of this situation that we all want to be free, like tree, like grass, and it's short, but it's in our from our heart. And the second one is that we all bring together all our, it's our, it's from our hearts. Everyone, we put it like a recipe. So we put it in a dish and it makes a delicious food. So this is our Oxford. Oxford is a very sweet city. It's quiet and unique, small and friendly, and people know each other. It's a city of education. It's international. I like the people and my friends. The museum and the river. Templar Square because it's cool and nice. Neat and clean. The academic institution. The migrant action to innovate. To support local groups for Black and ethnic minority people. Going to the river to enjoy the view, see boats wave to the people in them, and watch the races. Sometimes we catch the little fish, go swimming and feed bread to the ducks. Oxford has the smell of history, with all the old buildings, the museum, the castle, the university. All it's safe that feels good. Imagine Oxford, our Oxford. If there was childcare for all, free English classes and free education for everyone, a place to learn all the languages spoken, Urdu, Arabic, Spanish, if there were equal chances in education and housing and all the services Oxford offered, if it was a place where everyone has a home and their homes is good, without cars, with everyone walking and cycling, maybe everyone can have wings and fly. With more cafes and places to make barbecues by the river and in parks, more botanical gardens and lakes. Can we put Oxford by the seaside? If it's more safe without any crime, has no fighting, has no drugs, no alcohol, and no pubs. Is sharing everything, has smiling faces and says hello and is peaceful. I dream that everyone will be understand each other's language. We bring to Oxford and share with you our experience, our education, our culture, knowledge from home, music, art, and languages, colorful design, lovely national costumes, our fashion show, delicious taste and food, our voluntary work, our skills and ideas, our cooking and recipes, our knitting to show to others. Share with Kama. At Christmas, they show us and we show them the way we celebrate learning to be a guide at the Pitts River Museum. Joining the mentoring group, we give something and we get something back. Our languages, our religion, our kindness. Our group is very unique. We don't fear of sharing experiences. Everyone is valued and equal. Our group is very good. We love each other. We learn with each other and we learn from each other. Our sharing, our support, our women's group. We have been going for a long time and everyone is equal. Like a flower, we always water it. We understand each other with love and respect. As we grow, each one on our group, we have so many branches. We learn English, do voluntary work. We help the government too, as women leads, because they are confident and they have jobs. We support each other, then we help others as well. Our personalities, our patience, our welcome. We wish that everywhere in the UK, in every city, there was a refugee resource women's group because it's so beautiful. Women's group is my second family. I love everyone from the first day when I meet you all. Love you all.
Thank you, Mariam. Thank you so much. That was absolutely beautiful and captured so much. And there are so many messages coming through. Yeah. I can't even read them all because they're going so fast. But just saying how beautiful and powerful and inspiring and moving, you know, that there's just so many positive feelings coming through on the chat.
Thank you.
Lots of people sharing their joy and how heartfelt they feel for sharing your creativity, beautiful poems. Lubna, Mariam, everybody, very inspired. Thank you very much for sharing. So we're going to have a quick chat to to you guys. We're running out of time a little bit. We've gone over schedule slightly, but we want to try and capture as much as we can. We're going to have a very quick chat to Dilber. I think if we go back to, we can get back to gallery view, and we'll just have a quick chat about the women's group and hear a little bit more about your experiences with the women's group. Is Dilber still with us? I'm hoping I can still, I can't see her at the moment. There she is. Hi, Dilber.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here with Marion and with Lubna. How long have you been with Refugee Resources Women's Group now?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Dilber, and about 10 years ago with the Refugee Resort, when I met with the Refugee Resort 10 years ago.
And what does the women's group mean to you?
Huh? It's for me it's very big meaning, because I learn a lot of experience, and I have make friend and learn language. Language is very important. When you move from different country to another country, it's very important first language. If you don't understand, you cannot speak different language. From England, we have to speak English, because I'm learning my English with the Refugee Resort Women Group. It was very helpful for me. I met with a different culture, with a different family, with a different friend. I make a different friend. I have a lot of friends now, because when I come, I'm lonely. I have no friend, no family. When I'm homesick, when I come from different country, it's very difficult for me. It was. When I met with the Refugee Resort Women Groups, I have a lot of different countries, a lot of sister, because it's the woman, we are like family. It doesn't matter is the color, is black, white, religion is different religion, different culture. I learn from them, and I cuddle all, we love each other all. We have a happy time and sad time, we sharing together. And I no feel lonely, because I have a big family, is the Refugee Resort Women Group. And I have a lot of real sister, but from different mothers.
We'll have to, Dilber, there's lots of messages of support coming through. There's people saying, Dilber, you're amazing. Great job, Dilber. Wonderful to hear you sharing your experiences. We'll have to collect all the messages that are coming through for the women's group, coming through on the chat. There's lots of messages of support coming in, and people feeling really inspired by everything that that you're sharing, everything you've written, your art pieces. It's so beautiful to see them. And I was going to say, actually, if we had some time, just to give a quick mention to the women's group's cookery book, because I had somebody who might be on the call actually, who got in touch, hadn't heard about Refugee Resource before, and had just learned about us. And so she was excited to buy one of the recipe books. Obviously, we are not able to send them out right now, but we can provide a digital copy. So
after the coronavirus.
Yeah, exactly. Once we're back in the office, once we've got an opportunity to go back in, we'd love to be able to send the recipe books out to people. But you've been amazing selling them, Dilber. You've been at events. You've been.
Yeah, I love it.
You share it with every opportunity you get.
Samantha, is not only me. Lot of women, they all women, refugee women make our group, Refugee Women Groups. We made a recipe book. Yeah. We all have a recipe from different country, different culture. Yeah. And back home we cooking different dishes, and we do recipe book, and we sharing, and we look after ourselves. Then we look after others as well. Because Refugee Resort do so many things for us, but I'm really sorry, I cannot explain. If I talk, I have to talk 1 hour, 2 hours, because it's how I learning.
Yeah, we do not have enough time.
But I want to tell shortly, because it's very, very important when we come to different country, language and the culture, different cultures, we learn different culture. I learned from UK, from Refugee Resort, and different scale. We learn different scale as well, have lots of different skill I learn, because especially is work when you know speak English, how you can work. But we found a job as well. I learned they give me reference voluntary. I go my job because I work voluntary, and I love work voluntary. I work full-time voluntary. It's me because I came this country. I was refugee. They opened door for me. They look after myself. I want to give back now already because like 10 years ago, I working with the voluntary. I really like to work more for all my life is work voluntary because I want to give back. All refugee women, we are refugee women group is very generous and very kind. We are, because we are sharing, when we cooking the something, we sharing with we look after ourselves. We sell in my recipe book. We sell in and we make money, look after refugee and asylums. Then we look after others as well, like homeless and special dimension. We look after so many people with cooking, and we are all women as chef. We cooking because we have a certificate. Do you know is food hygiene certificate? Then we cooking for everybody. We are very generous group. Do you know? It's very nice and kind. I love because I want to work always for them for refugee result. I work with a different company, but I want to stay with the refugee result forever because of when I came, met with the refugee result, I found my family because I'm alone, no family, not I can't speak English. I learned my English. Then I found my job. You know, it's voluntary job is good for me. They help me give reference. Now I stay on my foot. I'm very strong. I want to give back, look after myself and give others as well, help to other one as well. I think it's all refugee women same like me. They are very generous. Someone they can't speak English, but still they do recipe book. They are recipe from their culture, their country. And we make a recipe book. Then we cooking and we look after others as well. It's very kind, very nice place. I really love.
Thank you so much, Dilba, for sharing that. And there's lots of people saying they're inspired. They want to cook for the first time in their lives. They're feeling very inspired by all the things that you're doing, the community cafes, the recipe books. You shared that obviously your volunteering experiences with Oxford City Council. They've just shared a video that you've been part of there, which is going wild on social media. Lots of people really excited to see you
with
on
the
that.
music as well. Miss you.
Sharing all of your love and joy. People love hearing from you. It's really inspiring. People, there's somebody else who said in the comments how inspiring you speak, inspiring you speak with your eyes as well as your words.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So we're running out of time a little bit, so I'm going to move us along. But thank you so much to the women's group for sharing your artwork and sharing your poetry. It's absolutely wonderful, and we'll make sure that we keep sharing it. So if everybody on the call, you know, keep an eye out on Facebook, and we'll make sure that we share it on social media as well, so that other people can hear it, and we'll get a recording of this so that we can hear you saying them, because it's really beautiful to hear your words. I'm going to move us along to, and we had some submissions that came in from other people who saw the Imagine Oxfordshire activity and got involved. So we're going to go back to the PowerPoint very briefly, and I'm going to pick us back up on a few more bits of artwork before we move along. I'm going to skip through. There we go. So this piece came in from Amina, who painted this from the memory of her daily walk to work before lockdown. So she hasn't been able to go out because of lockdown, but this is a painting that she did of the South Park in Oxford. She said she saw this same space in different seasons, and each time it was so unique. And she's given it the title Positivity and Promise, because that was in her mind when she drew this. And she said, out of all the seasons, the bright and youthfulness of nature stood out in my memory. So I think there's that real theme of this time, you know, being able to connect with nature a bit more, and that kind of, that feeling of hope, brightness that nature kind of holds. So thank you very much to Amina for painting this and sharing it with us. We've also got this piece, which has been sent in from a 9-year-old supporter of Refugee Resource. He says that he chose this piece was by a 6-year-old actually, who chose to draw the place that reminds her of Oxford, which is the rivers. And there's been a lot of water themes coming through today actually, which is again, you know, very symbolic of nature. She said, rivers make you feel happy and welcome when you sit and look at them. If I was new here, I would want Oxford to be a kind place. And she said, I wish there was no racism in Oxford and everywhere. And then we also had this piece in this. So this was from a 9-year-old supporter. He said he chose to include buildings in Oxford. He said there are lots of stories and history in Oxford, and he would like to show people who are new to Oxford these places. He said, if I was new here, I'd want to know people are nice and kind, and that it's an accepting place and people accept you whatever your background. I wish Oxford is a place that people would come together to welcome refugees. So you can see Westgate and Blackwell's there, maybe some places that you know, and again a park with some trees. So thank you very much to those 2 young people who sent in their drawings that they've made. We've also had this piece in, which came in anonymously, but this person wrote, I wanted to draw a celebratory Oxford that honours its multiculturalism and diversity. We often associate classic writers and stories like Alice in Wonderland, which I think this is based on, with Oxford, and it's important to remember the message of finding a way to belong in a new place and how we all want to feel safe and welcome and be free to express ourselves. So much more unites us than divides us. Imagine if we embraced and explored more than we ignored and shut our doors. I'm going to stop sharing our screen just there, and I'm going to pass over to Stephanie, who's one of our volunteers here, because we had a few other written pieces that came in. And Stephanie's going to share a piece by Niran Atahan, who I think might be on the call with us. She's a Syrian refugee in Oxford, and she wanted to share her feelings. She arrived in 2016 and she wanted to share her experiences of Oxford. So if we've got Stephanie on the line.
Yes, I'm here, thank you. I'm very honored to be reading this piece from Niran. I am one of the people who came to the UK under the government scheme to resettle 20,000 Syrian refugees in 2016. I think it is hard to find words that describe Oxford. 4 years later, I can still remember the first face I met, the first place I went, and the first smile I got. I always have first thing to get or to give in Oxford. It is exactly like a love story between us. I have been received with lots of help and support from Oxford City Council and many organizations. They treated us with lots of love and respect to get integrated quickly to be part of the community. To express my gratitude and how grateful I am. Therefore, with great pleasure, I volunteered with Connection Support to help other refugees in 2017 up to date. I volunteer with Multaka project as an event planner as well, which is related to Pitts Rivers Museum and History of Science Museum, and to introduce and share our culture to add something new to the community. I am always thinking of how can I give back to this lovely city, which becomes my second home. And I could say that I cannot imagine myself living anywhere except Oxford. All love, peace, and prosperity for Oxford.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you very much to Niran for sharing that. I think she is on the call as well. So Niran, if you are listening, thank you so much for writing that piece and sharing it with us. And lots of messages of thank you coming through on the chat as well. We're going to move on to Rod is here. Rod is our mentoring and volunteering coordinator at Refugee Resource. And Rod is actually going to be sharing a piece from one of our counsellors, Alan Buckley, who can't be here unfortunately, but Rod is going to share a poem from Alan.
Hello everybody, it's my great pleasure to be here with you all. This is a poem by Alan and it's called We Have a Saying. I get up at 7 and want some tea, so I turn on the tap and immediately water flows out. I fill the kettle, plug it in, and it heats up. Later, without a moment's hesitation, I decide to walk into town. On Cowley Road, I call in at Tesco to buy some groceries, and they've got everything I want. In fact, I'm spoiled for choice. I head towards the plain, past bike shops and barbers and shabby chic cafes. All of them open for business, just as they were yesterday. It strikes me I've never once used the phrase, in my country, during a conversation. I've never needed to. I don't exist in a constant state of comparison. Passing the mosque, I hear an aircraft's rumble, and I glance at the sky without breaking my stride. On Magdalen Bridge, an ambulance wails by. Ahead of me, no pall of thick black smoke billows up from any part of the city. This city, which has been for centuries a cradle of learning and a place renowned for its beauty. If I think about family and friends, I know they're alive, and I know where all of them are. At the Church of St. Mary the Virgin, I pause, gaze at the large magnolia tree's eruption of blossom. The stonework softened by clear spring light. I hear in my head the voice of a man I work with. In my country, we have a saying, one hand is in hot water, the other is in cold. He speaks firmly, but not angrily. You may understand my pain, but you cannot feel it. And he is right. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. Thank you very much for sharing that.
My pleasure.
So Alan is, he's one of our psychotherapists at Refugee Resource. He's worked with us for 5.5 years. And he's actually just had his first poetry collection published with Happenstance Press. So we'll be doing some follow-up from the event. So we'll make sure that we share that for anybody who is interested. But yeah, I know that Alan's very inspired by his work and has written some wonderful poems that people really feel kind of resonate with them. So thank you for sharing that, Rod. So right now, so we are running over time a little bit, but we're doing okay. We've also got Basma on the line. Hello, Basma.
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us. So Basma, I can imagine has been extremely busy this week. I know that there's going to be some people on this call who have been at your events this week and feeling so inspired. I personally have heard some amazing feedback from some of our staff team who've been at some of your events that you've been organising. So amazing work, and we're very, very honoured to have you here. Just to give people some background, so Basma, you bring tons of experience. I won't even begin to cover it by saying this, but you've worked kind of for about 10 years, more than a decade, in community-based humanitarian organisations all over the world. You're currently a master's student at Oxford. You are a Achieving Scholar for 2019-2020. And a committee member for the Oxford Human Rights Festival, and you're a Palestinian stateless refugee. So you bring so much experience to this event. So we're very honoured to have you here. And we're going to just do a quick kind of Q&A session with you, just talking about some of your experiences, which, you know, we won't even be able to touch the surface, but it's great to just have you to be able to share some of your insights with us tonight. So you've mentioned before kind of art and safe spaces helping refugees. Can you tell us a bit more about your experiences with that.
Thank you so much for this very interesting introduction, and thank you so much really for it's my pleasure to be in this event, and I can say I am very inspired, and I hope that I can meet all these wonderful women and to visit refugee resource as soon as possible really. As I am very inspired, arts and safe spaces are very important for refugees. Speaking about my personal experience and my professional experience. With my professional experience, creating safe spaces like for children and for women and for men helps them a lot to build their confidence again, to retain their confidence again, and to express their suffering, their journeys, their feelings of loss, and their feelings of discrimination and marginalization in a safe, but also in a very connected safe spaces and also platforms. So I can remember like for children, especially who are like unseparated and unaccompanied, using art, using drama, interactive theater, singing, dancing dabke, dancing other kind of traditional dances helps them to feel connected to their communities, to their culture, but also to overcome some of the many mental health issues and the trauma. And using art as well, it was as a transition period for them to describe and to explain what they have suffered back then in their home country or in their journeys like crossing the sea, crossing the borders, or coming in, for example, in UK, or coming to countries like Lebanon, and also the experience they have faced in Lebanon. Also working with women as well, women to establish community safe spaces, women safe spaces, also community and women groups as well, helps them a lot to build their confidence, to use their existing skills as well, and to build on the existing skills, to share information, to provide emotional support, and to find that kind of community, the support, the emotional support from that sense of community, which I totally understand when I see women like Mariam, like Lubna, like Deber as well. They establish that kind of solidarity and community of support, especially emotional support. And from my personal experience as a refugee, and as also I am a dabki dancer, so I dance dabki, and I can understand that when I dance dabki, I can get release of all my anger, or all of feeling of social injustice, like the discrimination that I am facing or my community is facing. It's also a way to express my state of mind as well as the refugees. So using art, using also safe spaces, it's very important for refugees and for asylum seekers, and also for the host communities, which we tend to forget. That when we build that kind of spaces, these spaces are building bridges and connections between refugees and between the host community, and help us a lot to break a lot of stereotyping, also to shifting narratives, and to, like, for example, to let women and to let men and to let children take a lead in the action or in the solution, and also contributing back to the community. So this is my experience. It's very inspiring. I am very inspired by all the stories and the poems of the women. And also I'm very inspired by all the resilience, the story of resilience, the stories of thriving, and the stories of determination as well that I have experienced working with women, working with children, working with men, using art, drama, music, dancing, establishing community centers or community safe spaces, and also through self-expression. So this is very important, and we have to stress that emotional support can be delivered using art, and it's very important as well. And helping people not only to express themselves, but also to seek support, and the most important part, to recover and to retain confidence.
Thank you, Basma. And we've got so one of our counsellors, Amanda, who was she was at one of your events earlier this week, and she said when she heard you speaking that she felt a longing for you to meet with our women's group, and she said she's sure that there would be many beneficial and rich exchanges. So I think hopefully, once we have an opportunity to kind of meet in person, I think it would be absolutely lovely for you guys to get together and pick up on this, because we're running out of time, and I'm so conscious that there's so much more that could be said and so many more experiences that could be shared. But one of the things that we talked about, obviously with all of the events that you're running for Refugee Week, would you like to kind of share a little bit more about, you've got an event tomorrow actually, haven't you, that's about kind of experiences, and particularly in light of the pandemic, people's different experiences, how we're responding as a community to the pandemic. So did you want to share a little bit about the event tomorrow?
Yeah, thank you so much, and it will be my pleasure and a complete honor to meet with the women and to go also to visit refugee resource, and I am looking forward for it really. Tomorrow we will be hosting also panel discussions about narratives of hope, resilience, and solidarity, stressing the importance of shifting the negative narratives or the stereotypes that individuals and community have or had about refugees, and to stress about the importance of the contributions of the individuals, of the communities, of the cities, and of the systems of making a welcoming environment for refugees, and also how to build bridges between the refugees or asylum seekers and also the host community. We will be leading the panel discussion with the Lord Mayor of Oxford, who will be sharing how Oxford through many years have done a lot of very interesting job to welcome refugees and to be really city of sanctuary. And also we will be having a Palestinian Canadian refugee from Lebanon, living in Lebanon, to explain about his experience and speak about the Candle of Hope initiative that he took during the coronavirus to spread the hope among the world. And also we will have Lucy from Refugee Resource, gladly, that she will be explaining about the important role of organizations and local NGOs supporting refugees, and how we can use the support from these organizations to uplift the experiences of refugees and to change the narratives. And also we will be having Razan, she's a Syrian refugee, came to the UK, and she was able to establish her cheese company in York because of the fund she received from the city council and the support she received from the community. So we hope all these panelists, and we hope all the discussion can really move forward to make, to change the perceptions, to let people really want to be educated about refugees and to understand, or to learn to understand the refugees and the plight of refugees, and to create a certain change, starting from the individuals themselves to the community. So it will be at 5 p.m. and the link, you will find the link in the Oxford City of Sanctuary website. So if you are interested, if you want to contribute to the discussions and to the Q&A also session, please join us. I promise that it will be really a very exciting event. Thank you so much, Sam and Refugee Resource, to let us also speak about our event tomorrow. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, and as we say, I think you're involved in even more events over the weekend, aren't you, with Refugee Week? So yeah, please do, if you're interested in hearing more from Basma and from Oxford City of Sanctuary and other organisations, there's lots more that's going on tomorrow and over the weekend for Refugee Week. So I'm conscious that we have run out of time a little bit, but I would like to invite everybody who's kind of on the call, that if you've got any kind of parting sentiments that you would like to share, that maybe you haven't had the opportunity to, please feel free to share them with us now. Wave your hand at me if you'd like to kind of add anything. Ask anything if there's any. I know that there's going to be comments coming in. There's lots of thanks coming in on the comments, for saying thank you for making it so inspiring and creative. Well done to everybody who's made contributions and supported. It's so wonderful to have you all here. So thank you for joining us, because it is tiring. It is tiring sitting on a Zoom call and you know, kind of not being in person, not being able to kind of be with people in their presence. It is thing on your eyes and your ears. It's a lot to take in, so thank you very much for being here. Lots of people saying it was a really inspiring evening. Lucy's saying she's very much looking forward to the event tomorrow. And we've got so Oxford City of Sanctuary. If anybody does want to find out more about the events, do Google or go to Oxford City of Sanctuary's website. Diva has said, Refugee Resource is the reason I'm now a doctor working in the UK. Big thank you. Thank you so much. So lots of thanks coming in. And before we go, you know, I would like to say that Refugee Resource, obviously we are a very small charity. We, you know, very much welcome donations. If there are people kind of listening who have the capacity to make a donation, please do go to our website or have a look on social media. You'll find out more information there about how you can donate towards us. But again, it's about those small acts. So even if you can't donate, you know, we've got people here obviously who are volunteers, people giving their time, people, you know, kind of if you're signing petitions or if you're buying Oxford lottery tickets or buying the recipe book for the women's group recipe book, you can still do that online as well. So do go and look on our website. Lots of people saying brilliant and inspiring event. They absolutely loved the poetry and the artwork. So thank you everybody for all of your hard work putting them together. Lots of people saying thank you. Dilber, would you like to say a few last words?
Somewhere about, you say our Refugee Resource is small charity, but we are very strong and very kindness, sharing with everyone. We are open door, like we cuddle with so many different culture, different religion, doesn't matter, different color, different personality, but we cuddle all whose they are refugee background, even anyone, we love all them, and we cuddle. We are like brother and sister. You know, we have men group as well, because we are women groups. We are like big, huge group. We are like sisters, but doesn't matter is the color, because we are all human. I love all human, and all whose they make Refugee Resource, whose they make this build up. Thank you so much to them, and I love you all human. Who's the human? I love everybody. I say thank you so much for you listen me. We have I learn a lot of experience and a lot of things, but we cannot sharing. We have no time. But I hope there's someone understand what we talking, what we doing, what we learning in the Refugee Resource. We are learn so many skills, different skills, and the different experience, language, exercise, Zumba, yoga, sharing with the recipe book with the people, and learn how they're swimming. Even we are teach how they are driving. So many different things we're doing in the Refugee Resource.
Yeah, there's not enough time on this call, is there, to share everything.
We are like teamwork, you know, very strong.
Absolutely.
Teamwork. We cuddle everyone. Our doors open. Everybody, you're welcome. Who's the coming Refugee Resource coming? If you want to buy recipe book from Dilber, come in. Welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. When we've got the office open, we'll definitely be sharing recipe books, but you can still buy them online. So we can share a kind of digital copy. So all the while that we can't send the physical copy, the actual book out to people, we can share a kind of you know, a digital version with them. So we do encourage people to do that, to visit our website and find out more about us, and find out more about the recipe book, and find out more about the organisation. You know, watch the videos, the volunteering video, Dilber, that you were part of. We'd love to, you know, get people sharing those kind of small acts, just kind of spreading the word. It doesn't matter how big or small your contribution is, like everybody can give time or give support in different ways. So that's just about us. We're kind of at the end now. We've run out of time, but it's been a really inspiring evening. So thank you very, very much again, everybody, for your contributions. I think we've still got some attendees with us, but we'll let people kind of gradually filter out. And as I said, we'll be following up. We'll be sending out if people have got questions, you know, do send them our way. Lots of thank yous coming in still. Thank you. And do find out more about the Refugee Week events that are still going on as well. And yeah, we will get an update out to people. Lubna, did you have something to add?
Yeah, thank you. We running Refugee Week. We supported for women, Iraqi women, art and war. and we love to join with us tomorrow and all this week. We do art and we teach you how to cook Iraqi food. If you like to join with us, and welcome everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I know that there will be people on this call who want to come along to that now.
Yeah, we're
and be
happy
inspired
everybody
to
to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Would anybody else like to share anything as people are filtering out?
But I wish, sorry, can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
I wish is war gonna be stopped. No one is fighting. Not more refugee. Everybody can stay their home and everybody be peaceful in the world. And no one is, we are no beggar. We are very kind refugee people. We want to sharing and I want to give back now. For me, I am background is refugee, but I want to sharing. Now I am work voluntary. I want to give back to this country. All refugee coming, not just coming holiday. They come to we go holiday different, but they don't know where they're going. They know how to choose the country. They never know chance to choose in the country, but they just come in like in the lorry somewhere, like lottery. You know, life is like lottery. But I wish no more war, no more fight. We'll all be peaceful and we cuddle and hug each other. Life too short and no fair. We have to love each other. Life too short. My wish is like this. I keep praying. I hope this coronavirus go away as well. We come into back refugee resort and we cuddle and hug each other all. Because I miss you all, my group, and I wish I come back. We see all each other. Because
wise words. Thank you, Dilber.
Thank you so much for you listening. I love you all. This is a Dilber.
Thank you. So people saying they so agree, Dilber. Lovely parting words. So we'll say goodbye to everybody. I think people are gradually logging off now. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for Louisa for handling the background the background technicalities.
Thank you all as well. Yeah.